Hey, it's Kyle, and I'm pretty congested right now. But that's not going to stop me from giving you the greatest deal I've ever offered on the Absolutely Everything Pass, ever. Usually, our Absolutely Everything Pass is $79 a month, and you can get a year for $795. But right now, over the holidays, I'm giving you an offer of the Absolutely Everything Pass for one entire year for $299. That's literally the price of going to a therapist or 1.5 therapists if they're not that good. That literally breaks down to about 30 to 40 cents per hour because there is now over 1,000 hours combined from what we've done so far and what's coming next year on the Absolutely Everything Pass. There are 725 hours of past calls, and next year we're going to be doing about 250 live calls, plus all of our live events. Every single thing we've ever done and everything we're doing, you can have now for $299. That's a quarter of a tank of gas. When you go to the website, you can click a link, it'll say it's $795. You type in the word water and it will suddenly become $299. And then you can spend next year watching this thing pay for itself over and over and over as you make higher and higher decisions, release things that don't align with you, move into a higher vibration of your own body, move into a higher health, and watch as the world starts to mirror the things that you're doing. Join us on the Absolutely Everything Pass, commit fully and join us, and you won't believe the results.
Let's talk about how powerful it is. Let's talk about how powerful it is to let a triggered moment show up and for you to not do anything. Have you ever had it where it could be anything? You feel off, you feel no one sees you, you feel you didn't get any sleep, whatever. You're sick, right? And you just start running to whatever, schedule something, from now on, you're just making quick fixes right then. Someone doesn't understand you, you're going to call them, right? Like you're just doing. What this does is this stops your trigger from being heard and it empowers the trigger. Right? The trigger is now the truth. You're literally making actions around the trigger. And then there's times where you feel immense peace. And from a place of immense peace, it might give you a very magical, expansive thing. But that expansive thing would be death to a structure you created. So you don't follow it. And there are some people on this planet who make actions from a trigger. Right? Whatever it is, I got to stop doing this, but you're triggered. You're at a low vibe right there. And you're not bringing compassion to the trigger, and you're not bringing listening to the trigger, and you're not bringing patience to the trigger, and you're not understanding why the trigger's there. You're just fixing it. You're just making an action from the trigger. Your gold opportunity is to ask yourself, what in me hurts about it? What does it mean? And you'll be shocked at what happens because you start to investigate deeper and you notice whatever the thing is that you have is making you feel something, I promise, also from before this. And the more you hear what's there before this, the more you release, the more you cry out, and the higher the vibration of the world through you, which makes things, if they are not the truth or a bad controlling agenda or whatever else, come to light faster and collapse. If something is not authentic and the truth, it will collapse eventually. But you can often use your trigger about things on the external that are not the truth to trigger what's not true in you. And if you listen, you'll find what's true under what's not true. Right? So some people live in a chaotic world where whenever they're triggered, they make a change that's noticeably never sustainable. Every action you make from a trigger has no power. Do you notice that? It never stays. Do you get what I'm saying? When you, in a moment, I got to stop doing this, I got to start doing this, whatever, there's no God in it. It's fixing. I mean, there's God in everything, but it's fixing something. So It's to not feel pain, but it's not expansive. Do you see the difference? It's to not feel pain. You're numbing your pain. That's no different than being like, this hurts, I'm going to get drunk. It's no different. To make an action from a trigger is no different than getting drunk from a trigger. It's just you numbing the trigger, right? And so you're literally going, ugh, I'm so pissed. I got it forever. I'm going to never talk to them. I'm going to do this, whatever. From now on, I'm going to get them to apologize. You're making panicky actions, and a survival mechanism is running your life. And every time you make a decision from a trigger that's a panicky action, right? You are supporting the power of the trigger. The trigger is in charge. Survival and fear is totally in charge. Every time it's like this scared thing is talking, and you're like, that's now the boss. So you're like, okay, you got it. And you make a quick fix, and it never lasts because it's not from God. It's not from the real you. It's from don't feel something. And weirdly, if you do that, the thing you don't want to feel comes up again. So what do? You make another bullshit action. You make another quick fix. You make a decision from the trigger. So what do you do when you're triggered? Nothing. You let the trigger be heard and just listen. And don't enter, but listen. Do you hear the difference between listening and not entering? Listening listens to everything it feels, and you listen and you understand and you care about it and you hear. Entering it is it making, like, the difference between, if Vivi really wants ice cream and I can tell that it would just make her hyper, I'm able to hear that she wants it, and I'm able to allow that voice say that she wants it. If she's going, I really, really want ice cream, but I can tell it would be too much sugar for her right now. It's not the right time. I still hear her point. I let her express what she wants. That needs to be expressed, but you can hear it and not go, oh, okay, let's do it. See, a lot of us hear our triggers and just do what it says, or we don't hear it. That's the choice we think we have. Do you get that? And that, by the way, that's how people in this time, a lot of people listen to each other. I either have to completely push the person out of my life, or I have to agree with them. That's happening all over the world right now, right? I either have to agree with them or completely ice them. You can feel that. Just look at Twitter, and that's how people talk. I either need to ice everybody because I don't fully agree with them, or I have to fully agree with them. How about if you fully hear someone and then ask yourself if it resonates? And then you do that with you first, because anyone that's icing everyone else and not hearing them, but also or all in and agreeing with them, is doing that to themselves too. Right? You're not listening to what it needs to have heard. And sometimes we just need to be heard with no instant solution. Sometimes we need to be heard with no catering to what it says. I hear that you really feel mad right now. I hear that you feel depressed. I hear you. Do you hear how that hearing the trigger lets it be heard and validated, but not in charge? Right? So don't trick yourself into thinking the choices are do everything the trigger says or push it away. There's a third option, which is hear everything about what hurts, whether it's in someone else or in you, and just listen with no doing. Can you do that with you? And when next time you feel triggered, your gold mine will be when you usually would cater to the trigger. Just listen to what hurts. When you would fix the circumstance so the trigger's not there, don't. Just listen to what hurts. And listen longer. Listen more, much more longer. Like really listen. What a powerful gift. Now you're listening. You're listening to areas that you thought weren't God. And by listening, you make those areas God and you change reality. You were listening to a world that you thought isn't high vibration, you thought isn't love. This is the dark thing. And by the way, one thing going on in the world too is this high vibration thinking in some ways has a very, very big shadow, which is the belief that low vibration isn't allowed to exist on the planet, isn't allowed to be heard. And by the way, for instance, I know there's a million different political places, but both of the two main political groups think the other side is low vibration and think they need to go. A lot of people in both groups politically think the other side, that they're high vibration and the other side is low vibration. And so one of the shadows to this high vibration world is the belief that the low vibration world, which is very subjective to how you see the world, needs to be removed from society. Yet all it's doing is triggering the things in your body that you won't look at. Right? So when you're trying to push something away, that's because you're pushing something away in you. Right? Now, there can be some things that just don't fit in your life and fall off. I'm not saying keep everything, but when you're icing something, don't talk to me. I don't want to hear it. It's open-hearted trying to talk to you or whatever. It's making a point that it feels, and you're just, nope. You're pushing this away. That's you pushing a part of you away because it's triggering shit in your body that's unseen that you're pushing away. And life is going, yeah, do you notice those things you push away don't go away? Do you notice that there are some things that you push away that don't go away, whether it shows up in another person or another energy, because you're not pushing them away, you're just avoiding your trigger. So eventually, right, that same thing will come up. It's coming up over and over and over, and it's weirdly not working. So we instead listen deeper. And don't need everyone else to listen deeper, just you, because the world is you. So it's mirroring you. So when you're like, I wish everyone in the world would hear this, or I wish my parents understood this, or I wish my spouse understood this. Do you feel what I'm saying right now? When you're like, I wish they did. No, you just have you, and that everything outside of you is exactly doing what it's supposed to do. And you start to realize that everything outside you is also you. And this is when you start to move into oneness. You start to be like, you're listening to everything. You start to listen without not necessarily entering it or doing what they say or being controlled or whatever, just listening. And I'm telling you, the switch on this planet will be from freedom of speech to freedom to listen. The speech is still allowed. It's listening. We need to listen, not just scream our point. We need to listen more than getting our opinion out, right? You're getting your opinion out to other people because you're repressing it in you. Check that out. Most people need to get their voice out because it's repressed in them, and they think the only way it can get free is if other people hear it. So you're going, if only other people would hear me, then I would hear this point. You can cut out the middleman and just hear what's here. There will be things that are offered through your work. There will be a voice you have. There will be points that you still have. You will still speak, but that's a byproduct of listening. Do you see the difference? I'm just listening. And so it's coming through. Do you hear that? Like, there's still dialogue. But if you're fighting for speech without listening, it's just ego. You're just screaming to get an ego out because the belief you have is the only way it can be liberated is other people hear it. That is so old. This freedom, this speech can only be freed if other people hear it. So we're just a crazy collective of opinions, egoically screaming at each other because we aren't hearing what needs to be heard inside ourselves. And then inevitably, once that feels secure and heard, you can hear people with opposing viewpoints and hear them. And you still can decide that doesn't align for me, but I love you. You don't have to agree with me. I mean, how funny was it when you were in high school and you literally thought I can only date someone based on we like the same music or the same sitcom? You know what I mean? Like you'd be in high school and be like, we're a match. And then you'd be like, they started to like this music and I don't. That's the same as just like believe this politically or believe this thing or whatever. It's like we're still family. We're still one. We're still love. Right? Do you feel that? Like, can you hold a listening? And then what are you? The listener, not the talker. You are now listening to everything on a quantum field, like you are listening 1,000,000 times more than you did before because your old belief system was something's heard when other people hear it. That's called codependency. You can't even get this thing out until someone across from you understands you. That's craziness. That's the old world. Now our awareness is like, I can directly listen to what wants to be said. It's not once mom acknowledges it or my ex or whatever. It's now, no more. No more. You're heard when other people hear it. Start with you hearing you. That's what happens when you stop moving from the trigger. If you stop moving from the trigger, you just listen. And then the trigger can finally relax into the incredible space that you just became. You just became a hot tub for this trigger. It's just relaxing in you. And the trigger is an ice cube and it's just melting in you because you're investigating with your hearing and your listening and your heart. And your heart will melt all of the ice on the planet. Your heart can melt all of the ice on the planet. Just don't aim for doing that. Just listen to what needs to be heard moment to moment. Just listen to what needs to be heard moment to moment. And then you start to become a master at making decisions from the now, not your triggers. That's where everything changes because the now will offer you something that's a step forward beyond what you thought you were. And that will always be sustainable because once you say yes to it, it will feel so profound. And you follow the profound feeling versus is this working to numb my trigger? Yeah. Sandy says, fear wants to win. Our higher selves want to connect. That's our true self. We can even call that our true self. Higher self, you almost feel this kind of separation, right? Oh, that higher me, that's you. That's you. And the thing you usually call you isn't you. The thing you call you is the trigger, is the pattern. But our one reason we're so stuck in it is our phrasing is always, I'm just unable to do that. No, the pattern's not. And we never say I when referring to what we usually call the highest self. I talk in the I when talking from the infinite. And then say, the fear says, the false me says. And then you'll start to honor the I and hear the false you. That's the difference. Hear the false you, don't cater to it. Follow the I. Hear the I, but follow the I because it will give you new worlds. See, the I will give you a world you can't perceive from here. The true, expansive, high vibe I will give you worlds you can't perceive from here. So it seems too far away and you go, no, that's not me. And you go me, and then you limit yourself with the small you again by saying I. So there's your changes. Don't make a decision from a trigger. Don't call a triggered part of you or a limited part of you I. Right? I'm a procrastinator. I'm a worrier. I'm always broke. Nope. I get your whole life. It's felt that way because you've said I every time and calcified a false you as you falsely. I is this. I is the expansion. I is the all that is. Don't make a decision from a trigger. Love and listen. Just listen. Don't need a definitive fix right away. That's what the trigger does. The trigger needs a, what's my way out of this solution? So when you listen, you often go, I need to have no, sit in the gray area.